So if you've ever built an AI agent that seemed amazing in a demo, but just completely fell apart on its way to production, yeah, you know the feeling. It turns out building agents that actually work is less about the fancy LLM and way more about the architecture underneath. Today, we are going deep on two really powerful but really different ways of thinking about this: open hands and LangGraph. Let's get into it.
All right, here's the plan. We're going to start by really nailing down the core problem everyone's facing. Then we'll walk through a real-world case study to see how the wrong architecture can cause some serious growing pains. From there, we'll look at the principles for doing it right, compare two very different philosophies for managing an agent's state, check out their ecosystems and tools, and finally help you figure out which one is the right choice for your project.
Okay, so let's set the scene. You've got a prototype. It's slick, it's cool, everyone's buzzing. But the second you try to make it a real production-ready thing, it all starts to wobble. This is that critical moment where so many agent projects just die. And that really brings us to the million-dollar question, right? Why is that jump from a cool demo to a real product so incredibly hard? I mean, it works perfectly on your machine. The logic feels solid. But the real world is a whole other beast. It can feel totally impossible. You know, this quote from the dev community just hits the nail on the head. Building an AI agent isn't just about plugging an LLM into some APIs. No way. It's a serious architectural challenge. Things like orchestration, how it remembers things, how it handles errors, those can't be an afterthought. They have to be baked in from day one. To make this super concrete, let's look at a real story. The open source project Open Hands, well, they went through these exact growing pains with their first version, what we'll call V0. So what you're looking at here is the original blueprint for Open Hands V0. It's a classic monolith. And look, it was built for speed, for getting a prototype out the door fast, which makes sense. But just look at how tangled up everything is. The agent's brain, the testing benchmarks, the front end, it's all just one big messy code base. It's like a giant ball of yarn. You pull on one little thread and the whole thing could just completely unravel. And this monolithic design? Oh, it created some serious headaches. First off, its sandboxing was way too rigid. It basically forced every single action into a Docker container, which sounds safe, but it created all this friction and weird bugs where the agent thought one thing was true, but the sandbox had a totally different reality. The configuration file was a total mess, mixing settings for everything, creating these hidden connections that were just a nightmare to debug. And because it was all so tightly coupled, a tiny change over here in a research file could cascade and break the whole production app. It was clear. They had to start over. So out of the ashes of that V0 monolith, a new and way more robust architecture was born. Open Hands V1 was rebuilt from scratch, and it was all guided by 4 hard-won lessons for making agents you can actually rely on. And these new principles directly attacked the old problems. So instead of that rigid sandboxing, isolation became an option you could turn on or off. Instead of a messy, constantly changing state, the components themselves became stateless. Instead of that tangled mess, the core agent logic got pulled out into its own clean, separate library. And finally, the whole thing was designed to be modular and easy to build on top of. And wow, this slide really just shows you everything. On the left, there's that V0 monolith we saw. And on the right, that's the clean, modular V1 architecture. See how it's all broken down into these neat little packages? You've got the core SDK, a package for tools, another for the workspace. It's just a much, much stronger foundation for a real-world application. It's night and day. Okay, so Open Hands found its solution with this modular, event-driven design. But here's the thing. That's not the only way to build a reliable AI agent. So now, let's switch gears and look at another amazing framework, LangGraph, which comes at this from a completely different angle. LangGraph's whole philosophy is built around the idea of a state machine. The easiest way to think about it is like a flowchart. Each box in the chart is just a Python function, and you draw the lines connecting them. The secret sauce is this. There's a single state object that gets passed from box to box, and each function can read it or change it. This gives you incredibly fine-grained, low-level control over every single step of your workflow. Now, OpenHands V1, it uses a different approach called event sourcing. Instead of one big state object that gets modified, it records every single action and every single observation as a permanent, unchangeable event in a log. Think of it like a bank ledger, right? Every deposit and withdrawal is recorded forever, and your current balance is just the sum of all those transactions. Same idea here. The agent's current state is just the result of replaying all the events in its history. This is an absolute game changer for debugging, because you can perfectly recreate what the agent was thinking at any point in time. So let's see how this actually makes them more reliable. OpenHands, with its event sourcing, gives you what's called deterministic replay. You can literally rewind the tape and watch exactly what happened, step by step. For finding tricky bugs, that is a developer's dream. LangGraph, with its state machine, gives you durable checkpoints. You can pause and save the entire state of your agent at any moment, and then pick it up right where you left off, even if your server crashes. This is absolutely essential for those super long-running tasks that might take days. But, and this is a big but, all that low-level control you get with LangGraph comes with a catch. As this engineer points out, when things go wrong in a complex chain of events, figuring out why can be really tough. That great power comes with great responsibility. In this case, you're the one responsible for setting up your own tracing and observability. If you don't, that beautifully crafted graph can turn into a total black box when it's running in production. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the core philosophies. Now, let's get practical and see how this all translates into the tools and ecosystems you'd actually be working with. And these different designs really lead to different superpowers. LangGraph's checkpointing makes it perfect for something like a research agent that has to crunch data for days on end. If it hits a snag, no big deal. You just restart it from the last checkpoint. OpenHands, on the other hand, with its focus on optional isolation, is a fantastic choice for software development tasks where you absolutely need a secure sandbox to run agent-generated code without risking your system. This table breaks down the out-of-the-box experience really nicely. You can see LangGraph is super tightly integrated with the whole Langsmith platform for things like observability and deployment. It's a really cohesive ecosystem, but you are kind of buying into that whole ecosystem. OpenHands V1 goes a different route. It comes with a production server and that native sandboxing right in the box. And it's totally model agnostic. It supports over 100 LLMs, which gives you a ton of flexibility. And that brings us to the most important question of all. Look, the goal here isn't to say one of these is better. The goal is to figure out which of these philosophies is the right tool for the job you're trying to do. So let's just boil it all down. Here's your cheat sheet. You should probably lean towards LangGraph if you need that super detailed, granular control over a really complex and custom workflow, or if you're already all in on the LangChain and LangSmith world, or if your tasks take a long time and need those durable checkpoints. On the flip side, OpenHands V1 is likely your winner if your main thing is software engineering that needs a secure sandbox, if you want the freedom to swap LLMs without being locked in, or if you just want an all-in-one solution that's ready to go. And that kind of leaves us with this final, bigger thought. This choice between LangGraph and OpenHands really points to a deeper question about where all of this is headed. Is the future of AI going to be built by developers who have precise, low-level control over every little step? Or will it be built by assembling secure, high-level components like building blocks? Honestly, the answer is probably both. And knowing which approach to use and when, that's what's going to separate the cool demos from the truly revolutionary, production-ready AI agents.